Peace. All right, everybody's out there. Peace. Everyone's out there, you know, supposedly enjoying their families or selling out, or a little bit of both. Um, man, how many years has it been? There's a lot of years of being here at the school during Thanksgiving. Um, so let's go back a little bit. Peace, peace. For those that don't know, um, the Thanksgiving is the holiday that I hate the most. I love the idea of family. I absolutely. I'm more mature now, obviously, so I can deal with it and accept it, and I accept people um, seeing their families. And you can say, oh, well, you could see your family. I've always said this too. You could see your family any other time, and you have Christmas too, and you're going to do that too, which is a much more enjoyable holiday, I would think, right? But people work hard. It's like the proletariat, the working class, the lumpen proletariat, the class of working people that are even um, more succumbing to the hells of the society. So they usually are seen as, and is correctly seen as those that cannot fight back. They're too busy surviving. There was no revolution for them. They're too busy surviving. And one of the interesting things that that I learned over the years, right, is that people are either, whether they're revolutionary, supposedly militant, or not at all. There is no context for our people understanding history and still dealing with the forced appropriation, a forced assimilation. And if anybody knows, Thanksgiving is a forced assimilation, right? So definitely a forced assimilation, right? Um, you go online, you can see videos of me almost 20 years ago giving details about this holiday. And it's one of the few that isn't based on the mystery. This is why, I implore all the gods and the earths that are real builders to really study this. This is a holiday that isn't based on it is a large commemorative holiday, but it isn't based on mystery, religion, mythology, belief. Okay, it's based on us accepting a history and then brilliantly adding activities that are essential to it. You know what I mean? So it's it's always been intriguing to me. This isn't like Christmas where you have a lot of beliefs and stuff. It also isn't like Christmas where you've thrown a ridiculous amount of enjoyable things onto it, though. We're all lying to ourselves if we don't think that the you have a piece of the God infinite mind. Um, that Christmas trees, getting presents, cartoons, all of this kind of stuff isn't fun for the kids and fun for everybody. When if we study and this will be something I build on in the weeks to come, that Christmas was deliberately designed for the kids. But this Thanksgiving is an interesting beast, Um, it's really us that have to find some context, not just to enjoy family, but also have some type of rigor in instilling in the youth that there ought to be some kind of questioning to it. When you see things, I've been saying this for years on this day, but when you see things like when people go, today's Indigenous Peoples Day, not Columbus Day, or Indigenous Commemoration Day. I believe that some people call today something similar to that. These things don't happen unless the next generation, the young, don't question stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? If they don't question things like this, then it doesn't happen. So if you got knowledge yourself and you're saying that this is the one day, and you're gonna add Christmas to it too, that it's okay not to teach, just be with the family. You can't teach the 85, this and that. Um, it's not about teaching the 85 if they're already 85 and they're grown, but there's a way to conduct yourself in a unique kind of way. I think there are activities that we can engage in that reveal the embrace and the importance of history. Because if you're going to say history doesn't matter, then why are you studying 120 lessons? Because the majority of that is history that has still to this day hasn't been accepted. So when it's not accepted, do we disregard it? You know what I mean? Do we say no to it? So these are all things to think about. But if you look at my history, if you look through the internet, YouTube, and my thoughts on Thanksgiving and stuff, you're going to see that they're fiery, they're militant. It's something based on history. One of the things that I love about the recent scholarship of Indigenous history is that they also note the simplification of the history, where they've done it simply on a black-white binary. So slavery is accepted, the plight of the African American is accepted, but not the indigenous, right? And if we look at the indigenous history in the United States, and then Central, South America, the Caribbean, you're going to find different ways of completely whitewashing it away, right? So whose job is it, though, when you're enjoying, your feast and everything? Not only is that like a feast, the ideas of feast, these are all ways that we never ate. We never ate this way. These are Roman ways of eating. Um, Gluttonous fast, eating as much as you could fit, making sure everything, and most of the time families are not feeding a village, they're feeding that many people. Peace, God. I want to interrupt you. That's not your webcam. Indeed. When you get off, I want to build. That's peace, God. I'm not leaving until I build. That's peace. All right. I haven't heard about the hook. You said if I heard about the hookworm infections of the American South in the 1800s and 1900s. I haven't, though. But it certainly sounds like something that could be related to the pig. I was reading a book about the pig, and the history of the pig and everything, and its embrace and that. And the pig is very crucial to the domination of and the takeover of America. All right. But because the pig can survive in any kind of environment. They have an excellent nose that they can really judge what food. They have the body type, which is very similar to humans, to be able to eat a diversity of foods. And so they're able to survive anywhere. And that's what happened. And they were able to clear. They got to work once they were brought to the Americas, and they wiped out a lot of the indigenous farmland. A lot of the crops that were crucial to them. And so they also had a part in, the decimation of the original people. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. You said yes, but more than just the pig, because that's where they got it from. Was what it shaped the character of the American South personality. Yeah, man. Give me that research. I'd love to read that. definitely goes with what I just finished reading. You know, um, yeah, real interesting. Yeah. But it's been a lot of years. And me being militant, me being this, that, and what I found. I've been teaching here for 25 years, so it's kind of like I've been teaching here almost a generation. So I could say it's like a generation. And what I learned about mind, I was infinite mind. Is like they didn't care as much. I'm not going to compare it to another generation that say cared more. It just so happened that this generation cared as little. You know. Yeah, I'm gonna read this little screenshot that the God sent Infinite Mind about hookworm infections. Hookworm infections were widespread in the American South, affecting 40% of the population in the early 20th century. These parasites cause severe fatigue and anemia, contributing to the stereotype of lazy Southerners due to debilitating effects on health and productivity. Overview of hookworm in the American South. Hookworm infections significantly impacted the American South, particularly in the early 20th century. The primary species involved is Necator americanus, often referred to as the American murderer. This parasite thrived in the region's warm, damp climate and was linked to poor sanitation effects. Symptoms and effects. Hookworm infections caused a range of symptoms, including physical symptoms, itchiness, abdominal pain, diarrhea, anemia due to blood loss from the intestinal wall, leading to fatigue and weakness. This is real. This is real. Definitely links up with the history of the pig that I read. You know, very, very intriguing. Oh wow! You said that's not just a 20th century. This is a study that just took place. History of the Southern mind. Yeah, I guess those slow draws and stuff have some. There's some effect to it. But yeah, guys. Um, I think this. I think that with the holidays in general, one that is historically based, we have to put our foot down and make it so the youth know something about this. You know, it's important that they keep in mind that things might not be changing and they might feel really good right now, but it's not right, and that there's something that they may be able to do and figure out soon enough. That could change all this. And it's what I call the mettle, mettle, the ability to know something is wrong and be engaged in something that is not quite right, and still have the fortitude, the mettle, to say that this must be changed. And while I'm observing myself in the wrong of any measure, of any level, I'm seeking answers and demanding an answer, right? That demand of the answer is what makes the mind work. The what if, right? The creative question, what if? Yeah, so this is this we have to, and it's co-opted wonderfully. you know what are you thankful for? Everybody's thankful. If we're alive, we're thankful for something. It's emotional. If someone's not thankful, then they're really not thankful. If someone is thankful, once they think about it, they're thankful about many things, maybe one or more things, very intensely. I mean, it's just, I think the development of these holidays is just genius, because I find none of them, whether I enjoy it or not, because I fast and I keep to myself, and the reading I do is always about indigenous history today. I keep it focused like that. I just, I just work all day until I get here. And is this my way of doing stuff? If not, I will try to do something that commemorates our indigenous peoples, right? And that includes us. You know what I mean? And you can't really escape it because family will want to see you, and it'd be a wonderful thing. I'm not gonna denounce my family, so I end up seeing them the other days. It's like Thursday through Sunday, you know. Throughout the years, my family has adjusted. This is really what has happened. They've adjusted to also making a special dinner or get together for the days that aren't Thursday, you know, Friday, you know. So, you know, the thing is though, is that in these holidays we try to embrace the way families, the 85 in general, the way that they have embraced it, the way that they have adjusted to it, that even if they know this history, they seem to be doing something that we're not, and that is assimilating something, you know, assimilating something to another level, you know. So like, how do we take the best part, you know? I see too many of us take the best part and denounce the day as a day that doesn't need teaching or sharing. And I'm like, why do we have to adjust and assume that the Father was always in adjustment to everybody or in endless adaptation to everyone? You know, that's not really what it was. You know what I'm saying? You know, so it's always, you know, we always gotta rep the indigenous. It's not really warm in here like that. We always gotta rep our indigenous. You know what I mean? Always. You know? Anyway, the coat got the joint too. Right? The coat with the joint. You know? Always repping. You know? Right? But yeah, Infinite Mind, really, you said that this brings the book How to Eat to Live to a whole new level. Yeah, it really does. You know, about that whole hookworm stuff. Um, you know, the more we study health, the more we find out that people really are um, you know, they really are real reasons, and there's no mystery why certain people are suffering. You know, just because we haven't figured out all the equations doesn't mean that these equations of mathematics don't exist. You know, but you know, I don't want to spend here also ranting about Thanksgiving. I think I've earned that in all these years. But I just want to let you know that there are ways to adjust the traditions, you know, to adapt. Get the babies, you know what I mean? Get the young teens that are rebellious, you know? You know, it's not supposed to be many people. It's supposed to be almost nobody that deals with knowledge and consciousness on a deeper level. You know, and what you're finding is that, you know, like I said, like when you deal with relationships, we're dealing with people that are already grown. And a lot of people that are grown may be very successful and really deep minded, but they don't know about this stuff, you know? This indoctrination and propaganda is very powerful when the proletariat is really a lumpen proletariat. They're working on their own survival, seeking to thrive as all humans do, and these things can be left on the back burner. You see? This is why Father always taught us to teach the babies, right? But we are, you know, we are grown, and we most of our relationships, especially the personal, intimate relationships with a lover, partner, someone who might be the earth, or on the contrast, be your God, right? You would hope that they would care about engaging youth on the most important issues when everything says forget about it. Everything says forget about it. You know, see, it's easy. It's easy to say, listen, it's easy to come here, whether I had people in the classroom or not, and just teach what we know. The difficulty is to come in the days where you don't have to go. You see, it's a holiday though, so nobody's gonna be there. You know, right? it's just showing up though in those days that give you the strength, that give you that real muscle. And I think that's kind of what our it's kind of what I'm seeing lacking with our 5%ers. It's too much adjustment to the outside world, all in the guise that the father did. Let's make it easy. Let's not bore mathematics. Let's not go through even, I see people don't even have any bills for the alphabet that are coherent and useful. It's just the statements that they know. It's not understandings. If you just have statements, the simplification of things, because we're too scared to teach. We're too scared to teach something deep, and then having someone say, "Oh, that's too deep for me." Well, this society has gotten dumber. And I'm not saying that to be mean or anything. I teach in the schools. Kids know less than they did before. Right? They have um, less awareness. Um, young kids, third, fourth, fifth grade. I'm giving it higher grades. Sometimes even middle school, but definitely third, fourth, fifth grades where you think they would know, don't even know the ethnicity they're from. So they have all this prejudice and stuff that they're taught, and they say these mean things to each other, steeped in the God degree in the 1 to 14, but they don't even know what they are. Have no idea. And then, and more and more so, it's really the Black American family. They don't teach them. And then when they teach them, like, let's say a Caribbean family, Dominicans and others, they're teaching them though for contrast, which is something a lot of scholars know. And I wonder if that contrast is really just for contrast against the Black American, and not really for the care for the legacy of hells and glories and wonderful things that their histories and cultures have gone through. You see, a lot of Black American scholars go with the former, that they're just learning this so that they could contrast, and they document it that way. I disagree with that one-sided approach. I think it's a combination. Things are not so easy, Peace. God, you said I taught Spanish in high school last semester, and youth didn't have sufficient study habits, discipline, or mentorship. There is none. Yeah, there is none. And I'm not trying to be fatalist and stuff. It's just, we got to say what the problem is, and you're totally right, and we got to say that it's our generation. These kids in second, third, fourth, these are our children. A lot of our children have grown up, and they're not educated like that, so at least they know the duality and respect it. The contradictions of this life as oppressed people, Julia, you said then you got rappers like Jules Santana saying stuff like they don't need to learn how to read. And that's just wild right there. Yeah, I didn't really study all that, follow all that, what he was saying, but man, if he said that, that's just crazy, But yeah, well, it's solutions, I think one thing I learned from teaching in the schools and stuff is you gotta is ideals of how to deal with things here, but it's still the same principle. You gotta keep plugging away. You know, see, when we teach this knowledge outside in the street, student fails, we move on to the next. You know, in the school system, when you're teaching a school system, you see the same failing kids the next grade, the kids that just get by, and but they're the ones that also interrupt the class and set the tone, and and so you gotta learn. You learn how to keep plugging away, never stop, never give up. You know, and I think that in general, we need more of that. Though we certainly need that on the holidays. You know, we certainly need that on the holidays. You know, like I don't mind people celebrating the holidays. Yo, honestly, I don't even mind like a 5%er, like if they putting trees in their shit and everything like that. If they teaching the youth to do something different, you know, like my children, they love it though. My daughter loves the Christmas stuff. She enjoys all that, but she also learns the history of Saturnalia. So she can see like, yo, the things that we like today are also a hodgepodge of mistakes, deliberate assimilations, horrific things, wonderful things, a combination. Life is a combination of all these things that merge together to make what you are enjoying. And it's important to know that. It's important to know that so she could say, listen, one day, you know, I think I'm just saying, I don't know. My daughter's 12 years old. I don't know what she's gonna do. Um, I think that I'm gonna enjoy using the tree and stuff, but I don't. She doesn't bear witness to Christianity at all, and at her young age, she has to deal with other kids that, of all religions, are upset at her because she don't have a religion. She don't deal with religion. I don't tell you. You ain't gotta tell them you 5% of this and that. You just tell them that you don't deal with religion. You don't believe things. See, that's the thing is like we want everybody we build with to be a 5%er. I didn't teach my children that way. I taught my children to make the choice of not believing. Let that be the philosophy that I share with you, to not believe so you could always question and never stop the next question. I was reading Allen Iverson, one of my favorite ball players, man. I got his autobiography. Anybody wants it, I can share it with you. His autobiography, you know, and I got his autobiography, and it's really great. You know, I'm a big Iverson fan, man. Definitely top 5 favorite basketball players. You know, I don't know if I can name them off the head, my favorite 5, but no, I think I could actually. I'll give it to you later though, if you guys still want, if you guys interested. My favorites, but yeah, yeah. But actually 6 because there's a guy playing now that is in my tops. But anyway, I digress. Um, Allen Iverson, when he was going to be jailed when he was jailed as a teen for supposedly starting a riot and being part of a mob, right? Before he ever got to Georgetown University, this happened in high school, and he was upset about it. And he's like, "Yo, I'm innocent and I'm still in jail," and he was questioning the mystery god. And I think he went to his grandma and he said this, and he said his grandma told him something, and he never questioned it again. And she asked, "Never question God." Now, for Iverson, that kept him on the path of fortitude because he already had his blinders on. He is great at this basketball. He's great at football too, but by this time, basketball is really the lane. Excuse me. And this idea of not questioning, if someone has the fortitude for something, it'll keep them on the path. And that's the general idea with religions. Have the people as a unit, as an entire unit, forward. But as the development of a people's and a collective mindset that can grow and develop. Um, you know, the religion absolutely shuts you down. No question. The most important question for the creator, us. What if? What if we do this? What if we do that? You stop that. You stop questioning and says, why is this? You eventually stop what if, because you stop your ability to interact with the possibility of change. If you cannot ask why things are so, then you cannot ask why things shouldn't be so. And what can you do to change it from being so to be something else? So religion is a powerful tool to aid, but also a powerful tool and has become the most powerful tool to obstruct. You know? And this is why I was thinking, why did that help Iverson? It helped him because he already had focus. His mind of what if I played this hard, great, this intensely, and I could make it to the NBA. He already had his what if question, and nothing was going to get in the way of it. He was going to make it through, and if he could make it through, he was going to continue with that. So it's all a matter of getting lucky and getting out of jail, which things worked out for him, thankfully. Thankfully, you know, he actually got good community help, and was able to get out. You know, but if we go into situations, right, and I'm always representing, see, got the indigenous, right, always. Um, if we're going to build and be in the world, but not of the world, as we were taught by all of our elders, I'm not even going to say the Allah, I'm going to say what all of my elders, firstborn, first fruit, Mecca, Medina, all taught me. And so we have to be comfortable with being contrary to what popular thought is, absolutely at all times. You know, I've always been comfortable there. You know, my pursuits into consciousness started as a music writer, culture, hip hop culture, and music. And so being countercultural, um, it's a natural wave for me. Um, but it must be for us in some kind of way, you know, in some kind of way. And I think that some of us don't have a good history of the indigenous. You know, I've been disappointed. Like ever since the whole Puerto Ricans aren't part of hip hop history as pioneers, which is real bullshit and not and completely not true. Puerto Ricans are pioneers, and we got all that backlash and um, a lot of I'm saying a lot of 5% showed their ass, not just the cornballs, you know, damn cornballs like Lord Jamal, but a lot of others that, you know, where to them it's really this is just a Black American organization going against everything that the Father taught. Father was the true and living God. He wasn't telling people I'm this and I'm that. Yes, he's proud of where he's come from and he's this and he's that, right? of this place, Virginia, Black American, none of that. Of course. These are experiences, these define his experiences, and his taking part in these experiences make him who he is. And that's crucial, vital history. But to separate, I've seen people say, 5%ers say the you know the parts of Mexico that were Mexico, those were given to the United States. So it's not even a thing. You know? To contrast that Black Americans are owed reparations and not Mexicans for something. I didn't say Mexicans are owed reparations. That's not really what they're owed. They're owed land. How about giving the land back? Right? How about not terrorizing them if they try to emigrate here, which is usually what this country needs, is their immigration. It needs their immigration on many levels, not just lower level labor. But just hearing a lot of ignorance, it was complete devilishment that got America the massive chunks of land from Mexico. It wasn't some supposed honorable war. It's not how it happened. We don't read history. We don't know shit. There's, places are still being looted. Places are still being colonized. Puerto Rico being colonized and looted and imperialized at the very moment. and and so I think that teaching about this holiday especially is also a way of saying that the original people have plights to know about. This is one of the days where we could teach about the black and the brown, and really put it down, really unite. We're not doing that. We're doing much less. So I'm gonna be here for a few more, about 20 minutes. Let me know what builds you have. I have some things. Next week, I'm gonna work on it. I gotta work on it. If I could just get the time. I really had very little time. I want to do the B50 book beginner list again. There's a book on there too in the old list that I don't even have anymore and I cannot find. So this is how frustrating that has gone. But I want to make it. It's going to be made where every book that is on it is digital. Everyone that I can share with you, and then every single the ones that I don't have but that are great, they'll be listed as bonus ones. But the 50, as per this class, I can give it to you. I can give it to you. It'll be great. It'll be great. We can have all these books and literature. And some of them is going to be indigenous literature. The Indigenous People's History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar. Today I was reading. I'll tell you what I was reading. I was reading Cliff Nesteroff's We Had a Little Real Estate Problem. It was a collection of interesting vignettes of Native American history, but also current Native American reality. Very interesting. I was also reading Ned Blackhawk's The Rediscovery of America, Native Peoples and the Unmasking of U.S. History. Very, very strong works. There's a lot of Native American history that I've read, and as we go along, I'm going to be talking about certain books. The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee by David Truer. This is a newer book that kind of updates the new history, the last 50 years, a book I started, Generations Long Fight for Justice on Native Land, by The Fiery Carry by Rebecca Nagel. Very good book about current Native American activists and freedom movements. Killers of the Flower Moon, what they made the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, was based on the Osage murders and the birth of the FBI. Um, book by David Grand. They made a movie of that. The book is very good. In fact, the book is even better. Charles C. Mann's books, 1491, 1493, both excellent books. Um, Jack D. Forbes, anything that Jack D. Forbes writes, he was a Native American writer. Very good. Let's see. I've got a lot of books I haven't even gotten into. 20 real short book by Bob Joseph, a Native American writer from Canada. 21 things you may not know about the Indian Act, helping Canadians make reconciliation with Indigenous peoples a reality. The horrors that the Indigenous people in Canada have gone through via the Canadian government is something that is very little explored. Also, a newer book, Fresh Banana Leaves, Healing Indigenous Landscapes Through Indigenous Science by Jessica Hernandez. That's a book I haven't started yet, and I'm excited to. A lot of them, a lot of different biographies about Indigenous people, mythology books, myths and legends, healing secrets books, Native American survival skills books. Uh, of course, The Heart of Wounded Knee is where the heartbeat of Wounded Knee comes from. That's also a great book. Let's see if I could find it. Forgot the author. Yeah, D. Brown, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. That is a seminal book. Um, they're tough histories to read. They're tough histories to read. You know, and but important histories to read. Jeweler, you said money's not the key to success. An ideal between a group of people and going through with the plan is more powerful. Absolutely, absolutely. You're 100% correct there. 100% correct there. But guys, I'm gonna give 5 more minutes if nobody has any builds, anything they want to ask me. Um, I really just wanted to implore those thoughts and ideas. Um, I want to be specific every single session with specific things. If not, then it's no good. Then it's no good. This knowledge itself is a beautiful thing, man. And when I look back on it, I have sacrificed and went the long way with everything. Um, I have sacrificed lots of money. My road to even just respectable pay has never not been with massive obstacles. As a writer, as an editor who chose the right way to write, the honorable things to edit, it's always been a life of integrity based choices that have made my life filled with lots of extra suffering for it. Um, but I never go to bed. I go to bed and sleep well, giving it all I have. And it's just been a longer road to get to these wonderful fruit of it all. And it's an honor to look back and say that every chance that I took was able to teach something worthwhile, share something worthwhile, not just with others, but with myself and in my life. I want us to look at the things that we did, not just teaching others, but the things that we looked for to be able to do and give ourselves. We're able to do it. The things I said I would be years ago, a writer, a martial artist, uh, an author, and all the goals that go within that. Many of those things I've achieved, you know, in all of these respects, I've achieved them where I became that, you know what I mean? And The 5%er is built on his fortitude, and that should never be forgotten. You know, but leave it with anything. That's what we should always be grateful for. And if we're at a dinner where the highlight is what we are grateful for, be grateful that there is someone to teach. Be grateful that for a moment there, even if no one is learning from you, the knowledge will survive because you have it. And if it cannot be given, then you will give it somewhere else. You will exude it, regardless to whom or what. Right? Because we have to make choices at these family out. I'm not gonna eat that. We're not gonna eat the pork. You know, hopefully for my brothers and sisters, I'm not gonna just use an excuse to get drunk and get high. You know, excuse it. Excuses to me. Right? We're gonna be more productive. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we won't. But we're gonna be productive. If you are, right? We're gonna demand that we show our loved ones the best part of ourselves, but the best part of ourselves is the only part that we steep ourselves into. And in our own time, we steep ourselves into the poor part to make it the best part, and study really hard how to enable the poor part to be greater to deal with the worst parts of ourselves. And that we don't embrace the worst parts as our own character, our own nature, but momentary things to bathe ourselves up. This is what we should be doing, what we must be doing. And if you're a student of mine, I expect nothing less. I expect absolutely nothing less. You know, right now I do this. Even though I do this and I've done this all these years, and I don't have my parents with me anymore. They returned to the essence years ago. I don't regret the choices to do this, because as the years went on, I worked harder to engage them in different ways at different moments. I put the time in. I didn't say, well, if I can't see him now, then I'm not going to get to see him. I didn't do that. If I have any regrets, it's always because I chose work over a lot of other things. Working on the creations I was making, working on the martial arts, whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't affect the time that I gave to children. That's the best part. I knew that being a 5%er in this manner that I chose would take a lot of time away from my whole family. But I wouldn't allow it to take away the time from the children. You know? So we make our own sacrifices. Being a poor righteous teacher, that poor means sacrifice. It doesn't mean poverty. So as soon as it's not trying to be poor, it just, things happen. You make choices. You know what I'm saying? You don't write that sellout shit. It's the way it works. Interesting. Rumble. There was a documentary was it you who told me about a documentary before, and I saved it. I just watched so little, man. I don't really watch too many things. I spend my time reading so much that and writing that. I don't really. But I see it up here. Definitely interested in that. Definitely interested in that. Appreciate that. Oh God. So we're at the 50-minute mark. I'm gonna let everybody go. I'm working to do the 50 Power Cipher beginner book list next week. Really go through it. If you want indigenous books about indigenous history, email me. It's in there. It's in the description. Sunias97@gmail.com. And I'll send you all the books you need. I got a lot, and I got a lot to share. Some of them are superb, absolutely superb. And we got a lot of builds. Our people like Boricuas, we don't generally. You would think But many of us don't see ourselves as indigenous peoples, which is crazy to me. We are an Afro-Indigenous people. The Spaniard blood is just a whitewashed Moorish reality. So, you know, we gotta we got work to do. Right? We got things to share. Every day we should be waking up saying we have things to share. So we do. All right. So with that said, you know what I mean? You know, enjoy watching some football, enjoy Home Alone, you know, all that shit. You know, but realize there's got to go with some teaching with that, because the children will find the answer. They will find the answer to eliminate the contradictions and keep them from being ever growing, pestering hypocrisies. But we got to teach them. If we don't teach them, they can't use their mind for that. You know. So on that note, I'm gonna let everybody go. Until next week, we will build. We still build. Peace.